All right, welcome back. This is now part 2 of a definitive history of Alaskan Tapes, right?
Right.
We left off talking about quartz.
Yes, we did make some mistakes with what we had said. We thought that everything was available to view online and whatnot, still like on YouTube. But we had a realization that you actually used some of those channels. So you hid all of the projects and you, what would it be called? Like retitled the YouTube channel?
Yeah, I reused them. I just changed essentially the display name from Quartz to what is now Lutz Jennings.
And then Oslo to what is now Alaskan Tapes.
And I still have all the videos and all the songs up, but they're just privated. I did also realize that with Quartz, there was another issue. There was another artist named Quartz, and he asked me to take them down because they were drum and bass as well.
And he was just like, "You're not making stuff anymore. I'm trying to grow."
He wasn't very nice about it.
No, he wasn't.
But that's okay. I don't think I was very nice about it either. But eventually I did take them down because he kept pestering me for a couple of years.
And it just made sense. Like,
and it also
you weren't really getting views from it anymore. And it wasn't a current project.
Yeah, but there are still a couple songs around on Bandcamp, on SoundCloud. And I'm sure a couple channels had uploaded some Quartz songs as well.
Mm-hmm.
But something that I also did want to point out with Quartz was Summer Can Wait. We didn't really get to it.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like the first thing that I really took seriously and actually had like a story behind. So the way that song in particular, it ended up being an EP, but really it's the song that matters. Because the other songs didn't really do anything. But it was like a sampled guitar thing. And instead of drum and bass, I did like a down-tempo, almost lo-fi kind of thing. And that one was exciting because that one actually got on Mr. Suicide Sheet.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a big step for you. You had it on your wall under things you wanted to achieve.
Yeah. And then after that, I stopped caring about it. Because that was like the top thing, right? Like, get on Mr. It wasn't actually Mr. Suicide Sheep. It was just Suicide Sheep. Remember, he had the 2 channels?
Oh, yeah.
He had the copyright-free music one and then his official one. So it had significantly less subscribers and significantly less views. But it still got I think it got 60,000 views, which at the time was nuts.
Yeah.
And so many comments that were saying it was so nice and stuff. And we made that music video for it.
Did that boost
Tristan's camera?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did that boost your, not ego, but,
No, I wouldn't say that did.
No?
I wouldn't say so.
It didn't, make you kind of want to push harder to, okay, this can be a real thing.
If anything, it just changed the direction of music I was going.
Oh, okay.
I was doing drum and bass for so long, and then the one song that I did that was sort of slower was the successful one. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just go that way.
Yeah.
Even though,
especially with all the nice comments, like you said, and stuff, it really reassured that was the right route to take at that moment. Yeah,
exactly. And, I was getting out of drum and bass, I think, at the time. There's only so much you can do with it.
Yeah.
Although I'm still excited about it even now. But, yeah, I think that was the first sort of serious transition into slower music and more melodic and heartfelt music in quotes.
In quotes.
So that was an exciting time. And then I think that was the last EP from Quartz before Oslo, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I put out a few more tracks on SoundCloud. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And a few more remixes. And then Oslo came about. And I don't remember why the name Oslo or anything.
I feel like I remember you saying you wanted to name it after a place.
Yeah.
But you didn't give any specifics on if the place needed to have any real meaning to it.
Mm-hmm. And I've never been.
I know. That's why I'm trying to think. I really don't know what would have sparked it. But yeah, that was.
I think it just looked nice. It's a nice looking word, right? And at the time, I was really involved in a logo.
Yeah.
I thought that was really important. And the logo was those 3 dots, if you remember.
Yes, I do, yeah.
So the three dots would go over like the OS.
Yeah.
And then when Oslo wasn't there, it was just I'd put the three dots in the corner, and they were like a big dot to small dot.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
But that was how you kind of decided to make Oslo all capitals and have spaces between the letters, because with looking it up, that was something you were always really, or you became really good at looking into. Like, okay, if I type this name into Google, what else comes up? And you knew that typing in Oslo had a lot of other attraction to it. So you tried to get creative with how it was kind of spelt out so that it would be the only thing that came up.
That, and a lot of the other like wave artists were doing the same thing. You know, they'd have periods in between their letters, or
just spaces,
special characters, you know, the O's with the crazy things and all that stuff. But yeah, I definitely didn't just want the word Oslo. I spread it apart. And I think eventually, by the end of it, I did end up just calling it Oslo with lower cases and just the word.
I don't remember that.
I feel like, because what I would do, it was, instead of Instagram and stuff back then, it was all Facebook, right? And Facebook was fun because you could do the banners and stuff. And so all the time, every week, I would do a new banner, you know, especially around new music and stuff. I would redesign it. Oh man, that stuff was so fun. And then you'd actually take into consideration your profile picture. And SoundCloud was like that for a long time too. I don't think it is anymore. YouTube is technically still like that, but who cares? You know, all that stuff doesn't even matter anymore, unfortunately. But it was so fun at the time.
I think it still does. It makes a difference when you go to an artist's YouTube page and, you know, there's a cool banner, or like it's promoting their new stuff.
It's more professional. I just don't think people update it as frequently as they used to. Like, I even had a time where like Oslo was spelt up and down instead of side to side.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was fun stuff like that. I miss little design things like that. Now, obviously, with album art, you do that. But, you know, with singles and stuff, it was just fun. It was a fun time. But yeah, with Oslo, I started really getting into like, what was it called? Chill wave. Remember that genre?
Give me an example of another artist.
I guess Tycho would technically be chill wave at the time. There was that French house group called, what were they called? Darius, I think. I didn't listen to them too much, but I did like them when I heard them. And so it was like that really like bouncy type of music.
Yeah.
Super sidechained. And that's when I first learned about sidechaining as well. So you get obsessed with it when you first learn about it. And yeah, and that was also the first time. Oh no, maybe so when Oslo started, it was a very different sound because the first thing I came out with for Oslo was Until Dawn.
August 12th, 2013.
Yeah. And that was an album of 10 songs. And that one was fun too, because I think that was the first album that I did. That was the first album I did.
Yeah.
And for each track, I did these super edited photos, all unique. And I put them all up on YouTube with the separate things. And like, there were me skateboarding and skate parks. And there's one of the sunset and like all that stuff. And so it was very like, it was bouncy music.
Yeah.
You know? It was very happy sounding. And then it just got
dark.
Darker and darker.
Got dark pretty fast. Yeah. Yeah. So on Spotify, Until Dawn is considered your only album. But then you also have Departure Part 1 and Part 2, which
are EPs.
Yeah, but you say, you know, you see them as albums, and those ones came out March 31st, 2014, and then August 31st, 2014.
And then there is also Volume 1, which were the first CDs.
Oh, yes, that we made.
So to jump back a little bit as well, so Oslo, with Quartz, I got the Suicide Sheep sort of stamp of approval. And then I started taking it really seriously because we had graduated high school. And now I was like, this is what I want to do. And I had met the City by Night guys.
Yep. And
so everybody was just pushing each other really, really well. Like Departure Part 1 and Part 2 came out on City by Night, and so did Volume 1.
Yeah.
And so around that time, like I was meeting my community that I liked a lot and actually hanging out with them over Skype. Obviously, everybody's all over the world, but, you know, we were hanging out, you know, and talking about music and, you know, talking about the scene and what everybody else is doing. And at the time, like Coda and stuff was getting really big, and I got really into sort of the melancholic vocal music.
Yeah.
So I was trying to make music that was that. But that was a fun time because I was just once again doing the same thing I had always done with just releasing singles, but around that I was putting these projects together with an actual narrative and all this stuff, and it was like darker music and almost cinematic music in a way.
Yeah.
With the Departure series, because there's a lot of like Foley. I'd gotten introduced to Foley and like
What's Foley?
like when you use household objects and everyday objects as
yes.
musical instruments.
Mm-hmm.
So for percussion, I would use forks and knives, and I had a lot of fun doing that type of stuff.
Yeah, your noise was very organic.
Yeah, and an EP that we also forgot was the Wander EP.
Oh, okay.
That was a good one. I really liked that.
That was on
one.
Oslo?
Yeah. That one didn't come out through City by Night. Actually, I still love that album. I still get a couple music bed licenses from that.
Oh, cool.
Which is really cool. So I also with Oslo, like that's when I got introduced to music bed, and I guess that was my first look into how to make money with music.
Yeah.
Was licensing and using it for commercial use. And with Oslo is also the time that I dropped out of school in accounting and started going to school for music. Wow. So Oslo.
Well, I think weren't you already Alaskan Tapes once you started going to school for music?
Maybe.
Because you took a little break in between there.
I don't think so. I think around the start of when I started going back to school was when I launched Alaskan Tapes.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure how much we should get into Oslo. Like, not how much we should, but like how much we can get into Oslo.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff I just forget, I think. But those were definitely like that was the formative project of really taking it seriously.
Yeah, I really don't remember if you were making money off of it. But yeah, if you were, it wasn't much. But we did take initiative with the Volume 1 album and made our own CDs. Like you got them. How did they get burned? Did you just burn them yourself? Because I think the CDs themselves were blank, right?
No, they had the picture on them.
Okay.
They had the texture. I think... So John from City by Night paid for the CDs, I think. And he had got them shipped to me. And then me and you went to Michael's or something.
Walmart. Probably Walmart or even the dollar store.
The dollar store.
Got some cool textured type of paper that kind of felt like a leather kind of thing.
Yeah. Right.
We got a bunch of different kinds, but I think that was... Oh, no, it didn't. That wasn't the one. That was the prototype, yeah. And we got buttons, and we just tried a bunch of different ways. We used my grandma's sewing machine to, like, sew the sheets together. Yeah,
make little pockets out of sheets of paper, essentially.
Yeah. And then we did stamps on the front cover, which we didn't realize, over the years they've smudged.
Yeah. Plus, probably not even allowed to use those. Like, we got the stamps from Michael's.
Yeah, from Walmart.
Or Walmart, whatever it was. We just bought them and sort of sold them like that. I mean, obviously not very many sold. We still have 3 of them.
And I have a picture. We laid them all out on my grandma's ground.
Yeah,
on
I
her
think
floor.
we made 30 of them.
There were quite a few, and they were all different and unique in their own way. And
different colors and different stamps.
Did you sign all of them, or it was just a few?
That's a good
question.
question.
You might have done the Oslo signature on most of them.
Yeah, I probably did. Yeah, because with Oslo, I had that signature too. I actually had it say Oslo in like graffiti almost.
And I think because it was just a limited edition, like a limited amount that we had made and released and everything, you wanted them to be really special.
Yeah, and those are really special. That's really cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool to know if anyone still has them, because I know that the case was... Like, I'm sure if people actually used it or wanted to use it.
Yeah. Nobody has mentioned it since. So
No.
I have a feeling they're probably destroyed.
Maybe. We still have ours, but...
We still have ours.
We just keep them, I keep them on, display.
Yeah, so to explain them a little bit more, too, we did it, gatefold style. And we printed out all those pictures, too, that I edited.
Yeah, we put pictures in it and everything, yeah.
That was a really cool project.
I don't remember how we, wrapped them and mailed them. But
neither do I.
I think that was more on your end. I think you did that at your dad's house, when you were living there.
I probably just put them in a bubble mailer.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them probably got destroyed, too. I want to say almost all of them sold out, which was awesome, because then that gave me the first sort of contact list for Alaskan Tapes. Because I knew that I was going to take it a little bit more seriously and leave City by Night's label
Yeah.
and sort of start doing things on my own, even though there was one City by Night release on Alaskan Tapes.
Was that the first one? Not Then Suddenly Everything Changed.
No, that was that EP, Familiar Rooms.
Familiar Rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we released volume 1, and then I took that little break. I don't think I released anything off of after volume 1 in terms of singles or anything as Oslo. That was the last thing.
Yeah. Yeah, in 2015 it started.
In 2015. Yeah, and then by February of 2015 I was Alaskan Tapes.
March. March was your first release, at
March.
least. March 5th, 2015, then Suddenly Everything Changed was released.
And this is another conversation with the Facebook thing. It was so cool because I hadn't said anything to like fans or whatever. I'm sure I had like 500 followers or something, which is crazy still. But I had all of a sudden changed the imagery entirely. I made those lines. Remember the gradient lines?
Oh, yeah.
And, something's coming soon, like all serious and stuff.
So instead of starting a whole new like page and like starting from scratch, essentially, you just kind of told your fans like, I'm reimagining myself essentially, and like giving myself a new name, a little bit of a new sound, because the first Alaskan Tape stuff is still very dark and Oslo like.
Yeah, it is, because the first Alaskan Tape stuff was supposed to be called The Alaskan Tapes. It was supposed to be an album.
Oh yeah,
remember?
Which I'm sure you're glad you didn't end up doing, because that sound went away really fast for Alaskan Tapes.
I still have it. I never released any of it.
That's so interesting.
It's still on SoundCloud.
But does it have the sound of Oslo, or?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a lot like Then Suddenly Everything Changed, and not quite like In Distance We're Losing, In Separation and Isolation, quite yet. It's still very noisy and just like random sort of percussion hits and stuff like that. I think I've played them on a live stream before.
Oh, okay.
A couple of them, not all of them. But yeah, I was working on that I had the artwork and everything.
What made you not release that?
I think I was making so much music that at the time the newer music just sounded better.
That happens to you a lot.
Yeah.
Where like you're making music and you think it sounds great, and then you make something else and you look back at the other thing you made and you go, oh, that's like old now, or you don't like the sound anymore, or something just changes.
I was starting to listen to more music in this genre. I think I obviously knew about Olaf Arnolds beforehand, but I think I discovered this minimal piano sound, plus other artists were sort of not releasing as much. Like if Sorrow and Owzy and
like Tom
Day had continuously released at this time, I probably would have continued that sound, because that would be what I was hearing.
Yeah.
But they all were taking hiatuses. Like Tom, he was on the podcast, he explained it. He was going to school. I don't know what Sorrow was doing. I don't know really what Owzy was doing. But both of them have started releasing a lot of music again, which is really cool. But I started getting into more ambient sounds and wondering what could be next for my music and what was really interesting to listen to and create, right? And at the time, I think we were living at my dad's when I launched Alaskan Tapes.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, I wasn't living there yet. But yes, you were living at your dad's.
Yeah. And going to school, and then we moved out pretty quickly. Yeah. Like before Beyond the Streets. But it's really cool because then suddenly everything changed. Like the title is what happened.
Yeah.
I just all of a sudden snap decision. I want to change Oslo to Alaskan Tapes.
But I feel like part of you knew that like this was going to be the last change for a while. Like you went into Alaskan Tapes even saying, and even I kept saying to you, like, how are you going to build your fan base if you keep changing your alias? And like we were having that conversation a lot, and I think that was also what really pushed you and sparked you to just take over the Oslo stuff and rename it as Alaskan Tapes, because I remember you telling me that you were just going to start from scratch and you were just going to create a new page, like leave the other one up. And I know I wasn't the only one, but I think there were quite a few people telling you, like, why would you do that? Like, you've built the biggest fan base out of all of the aliases you've ever had now. Why are you just kind of letting that go and walking away? And I mean, I'm sure that some of your fans did end up leaving. Maybe they didn't want the change or whatever. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I think it was the best decision to do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, the sound change was gradual with the start of Alaskan Tapes, like
Yeah.
you mentioned. Like, it still sounded like Oslo, but
Yeah.
the really cool thing with Then Suddenly is it created, like, for the first time I'd noticed, it created a little bit of hype.
Okay.
You know, like, people were like, oh, what's it going to sound like? And that was, Then Suddenly was the first song, at least on SoundCloud, that ever reached 10,000 streams on its own without a
Oh, wow.
repost from like a big channel or something like that. It was all organic and people were really liking it. Like, even in person, I went to school and this guy I went to school with, Gaetan, he made like super experimental drum and bass.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved it. He was like, I want to make music exactly like this, and even posted on Facebook and stuff like that. And I remember seeing that and being like, man, I actually did something here. And then I tried to recreate it and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, like there's something about that song, and it happens every once in a while. You get this inspiration and you're excited about it, and
it
you
just happens like so organically.
Yeah,
you can't recreate it.
you make the best song
Yeah.
you can, and that song still does well.
Yeah.
Like, not crazy, but on Spotify it's still getting like 2,500 streams a month, which obviously is not that much, but like yesterday got 192 streams, and that was the first song I put out on Alaskan Tapes. Like, all the songs on In Separation and Isolation get like maybe 100 streams a month,
Yeah.
you know? Like, this one's still going for it. The
That's
algorithm
awesome.
still likes it, and like
There's something to it.
there's something to it. And something I do have to say, I think it has to do with the album art,
Why?
because it's that like orange and black.
Oh, like the color scheme of it?
Yeah, and like, and it's you out of focus and stuff like this. Like, there's something really nice about it.
Yeah, that was really funny when you first switched to Alaskan Tapes. It became a thing where you started using photos of me
Yeah.
as your artwork and stuff. And I remember for a long time you were like, do you think people think that I am like a female because all of the photos are of you? Like, you're the face of Alaskan Tapes. And I was like, maybe you should stop doing that.
Because I hadn't shared my face
No, yeah, you hadn't.
yet online.
Yeah, when did you start sharing? Was that after Beyond the Streets? I feel like it was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It was after Beyond the Streets. I think it was around You Were Always an Island.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was quite a while. Because I think I needed to update my photos for Music Bed. And then I was like, well, because we were on the top floor
Yeah.
at that point. So I was like, well, might as well actually do this.
I mean, In Distance We're Losing is an image of you.
Yes, that's
We
true.
rented that drone and went to Greenwood.
That's true.
But yeah, you can't really see it that clearly. But yeah, We All Speak in Poems was still me.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I remember I was trying to get some professional photos of you. That was when all that started.
And they turned out well,
Yeah, they did.
you know.
I took like thousands and we got like 2 good ones, but that's all right. That's how it goes. I'm not professional.
It's not about your photo skills. It's about my photogenicness.
No, it was a lot of my photo skills.
But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Look, I'm looking at the discography right now. So, In Separation and Isolation came I think Don't Leave the City came first. That EP didn't do very well, but I really do like that EP still.
I remember loving that one, yeah.
And it's funny because the artwork on Spotify is not the original artwork. I don't know if you remember the original one. It's a lot like that, but it's completely different patterns and stuff.
I don't really remember.
And then I did In Separation and Isolation. And the first thing to talk about here is the artwork, because of the back of Ciolina's Shallow album.
Yes,
That's
it was
exactly where it came
inspired
from.
by that, yeah.
And it was cool because like the person falling on the front was animated in
the videos and
whatever it was,
yeah.
which was pretty cool. And then we were making that video for Weightless. We made that video for Silhouettes, the with the milk and the
Yeah, we don't need
dye.
to get into all the videos though.
No, but I'm just saying, like, we started really getting excited.
No,
like,
I know. I'm just joking because, yeah, with Alaskan Tapes, we were very experimental with a lot of the music videos and stuff, and I ended up being in a lot of them. I don't know how I let you convince me to not only use me as your album artwork so often, but also be in these music videos where I look back and I'm just like, what? Why? What did I do? It's so cringy.
Well, you were the inspiration behind all of it, so.
Oh, God.
But, okay, so it started really popping off with Beyond the Streets.
Yeah.
Because, so that was the fourth EP.
That isn't
Fifth.
that one considered an album?
I consider an album everything DSP
Even Spotify
wise.
says.
No, Spotify says it's a.
You're talking about We All Speak in Poems?
No, Beyond the Streets.
Oh, sorry.
It's only 6 tracks, but it was the first record we did.
I was gonna say that was the one that we did the first record for.
And those songs still do well too. Plea does really, really well still.
Yeah.
All the time. And so, okay, let me tell the story. So. At the time, I was working, I had already graduated from school for audio engineering, and I was working with my dad as a residential painter. And instead of working most days, what I would do is stare at Spotify stats and calculate how much I would need to be able to do it full time. This is all I did.
Yeah, it's true.
Was just dream and just
numbers. It's always
numbers. And just, I can't wait till... If I got 100 streams on 1,000 tracks, maybe then I'd be able to quit my job and I'd be able to do it full time. Obviously, that was...
Secretly, you were just manifesting it all.
I guess so. And then we put out Beyond the Streets. And at the time, I was teasing that it was first record. I had been building my Bandcamp following pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So people were starting to talk about it, I feel like. And it was a switch in style.
Yeah. I also just want to quickly explain. So with my vocals, again, that was something that I never intended to be considered a vocalist or record my singing or let you release it. Like, I was still living at my grandma's house when I recorded all of that, and I recorded it on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't think any of my vocals on your tracks started being recorded like professionally until like waiting maybe, but even then I think that one was still over my phone.
I didn't have a microphone until you were always an island.
But it was also simply because I just randomly mass recorded myself, like, because you asked me, it was just, you were like, would you ever be interested in doing this? And so I gave it a try, but I recorded quite a bit of stuff, like at least 5 to 10 minutes worth of just random singing, a lot of it inspired by Sylvia Plath poems. I was in a dark stage going through a lot, and so I was just randomly recording things. I ended up sending it all to you, and for years you used those vocals. You would just chop them up, record, like kind of put them through different mixers and different things, and it was really weird for me because it was like, that was me from so long ago, and it's still being used. But then it was even weirder when we did start like professionally recording, because I was just reminded how like, this is not me. I'm not a vocalist. I don't feel comfortable doing this, but I wanted to do it for you, and everyone that you kept saying was like, we want more music with Chantal.
People still say that.
I know, and I don't understand why.
Because Skin in particular is so good. Skin was also started with those recordings that you recorded so long ago, and then we found gaps, and we were like, okay, we have to re-record this. With extra lyrics
that's true.
and stuff.
So we did do some re-recording. Yeah.
But that was the first time that we ever really had a microphone. I think I had bought like a really crappy...
The blue one, maybe. The one we ended up giving to my sister, I think.
Maybe.
It was that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the circle with the little...
I was thinking that really crappy $60 ribbon mic. Remember the red one that broke?
We had no, that was after, I think. Yeah, that was after. I think that one was called Blue.
Yeah, it was a blue snowball.
The snowball. That's what it was. Yeah, we used that for a long time.
Yeah. But
or just my phone, or your like field recorder.
Yeah, the field recorder.
We used the field recorder too.
Yeah. But going back to Beyond the Streets. So I had never made this sort of, I don't want to call it deep house, but you know, the 4 to the floor kick.
Yeah.
You know, which Plea had and Boy had. And I was even putting drums in some of the songs. Can't remember which ones now. But yeah, I woke up one day and 40,000 streams on Boy. And I was like, what?
Was
what
that
happened?
on Spotify?
On Spotify.
Okay.
Because Spotify had this pretty much brand new program called Fresh Finds.
Oh, okay.
They had just started it at the time. And it was elevating underground artists who just hadn't gotten that success yet. And so I was on the regular Fresh Finds, like pretty high up, and Fresh Finds Experimental.
Oh.
And yeah, 40,000 streams. At the time, Spotify didn't show how many people were listening to you like it does now. So I had no clue it was coming. And I was like, it's happening. You know? And then afterwards, wait about a week. Obviously, that stuff goes down because in your head, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get 40,000 streams a day forever. I'm going to be rich and make $1,000 a month. But no, it was more than that. But obviously, the next day, it was less than half that.
Yeah,
and then the next day was even
down.
less than half
Especially
that.
for something called like Fresh Finds. They're constantly probably uploading new stuff, pushing tracks down the list. Yeah,
exactly. But the record sold out.
Yes.
And then we only got lathe cuts. We only got like 25 or 30. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But they sold out, which is crazy. And I was over the moon. I was like, what is going to happen now? And then the next week I got added to the electronic concentration playlist and a couple other playlists. So it leveled out. And I was getting like, I think I went from getting like 200, 300 streams a day to 5,000, 4,000, 5,000 consistently.
Yeah.
Which was nuts. And at the time I was working at the school that I went to.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm quitting. And they were like, no, you're not. We'll give you a raise and let you not work a day. And I was like, well, okay.
So you had a 4-day week with a
4
higher pay, and you kept that for a couple months.
Yeah. So at the job that I had, it was the school that I went to for audio engineering. So they had a nice studio.
Yeah.
A big SSL board and all this stuff. And after work, I recorded the strings for In Distance We're Losing.
Yeah.
Which was nuts.
Who did the strings at the time?
Raphael.
It was Raphael. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I met him through Chad, who was Sunrain and Cam.
Yeah.
And so we'd go there after work and just use the studio. And it was great. It was a huge thing. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't really want to quit was because, the job kind of sucked.
Yeah, because you were, like, I guess, an administrator?
I was, I can't remember the actual title, but I was the one who was giving people tours of the school and paperwork and answering emails about information about the school and the program and all this stuff.
Like recruiting people,
But I got access to this insane studio. It sounds so good. And the people that worked there were really nice. Like Eric recorded those.
Yeah.
Eric was a teacher there, I think, but he was also just a helper. And I feel like everything changed with Because Finally It's Everything. Because then Eden used that song and Maybe was on that album with Jay Roger and Elliot Rausch got in contact with me, made that music video all through Music Bed, and like these things were starting to really snowball. Your
professional level like went up a lot, it seemed.
Yeah, and I guess we completely skipped over We All Speak in Poems.
Yeah.
But We All Speak in Poems, there isn't too much to it. Like I still made it in the basement.
Yeah.
And I was just going off the sound of Beyond the Streets. More ambient though, and more solo piano, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I started getting influenced by playlists. And then, that song In Living Space got put on a playlist. And the Iceland song that I'm not even going to try to pronounce, went on there. And like, I Dreamt I Still Knew Myself still does well.
I love that song.
Yeah, me too. Which was, that was another easy song to make really quick. And everything was snowballing and it was so exciting and like, numbers were growing and all this stuff, and I attribute it all to the right timing. Like it was 2015, 2016, right when Spotify and stuff was really getting popular, and right when they were really starting to up their artist promotion, essentially, right? Like all the playlists were actually doing stuff instead of now they don't do that much.
It's funny because for me, I always attribute it to like, I feel like those were the first albums you made that were just very like raw and real. And I know that sounds weird to say with ambient music where you're not even really singing on it. But I feel like, I don't know, you just got to a different level. Like you weren't making music just for the sound of it, you were trying to like recreate memories and stuff in a lot of those songs. Like I feel like, you know, you created them because you were thinking about certain moments while you were doing it, and that was like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, exactly. I was not just making music anymore. I was considering everything. I was considering the titles a lot because I wasn't singing in them. So you have to make them interesting enough for somebody to go, what does that song sound like? You know, and then like I made the Iceland song right before we left for Iceland, knowing that we were going to make a music video for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much just, you know, footage of the plane and the mountains and stuff like that. And I still use that footage. Got a lot then. And then, because that one came out before We All Speak in Poems. That was like the single, I guess. And it did well too.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Piano Day becomes a thing. And I'm like, oh, I have all these really crappy piano songs. Let's put them out. And then Surfacing, remember how much that blew up?
Yeah.
That's a crazy song, because that song, much like Notes, was nothing. I just put it up literally the day before after spending half an hour on it. And it just gets uploaded and put on a playlist. And like at the time, Spotify was, the employees that were making the playlist really cared about them. Jamie Cameron, especially at the time. He actually had an understanding of this type of music, which was really cool. And I still attribute him to essentially making my career, and him and Athena, who started the Fresh Finds thing. Like, if it wasn't for them finding my music, who knows where I'd be right now.
Yeah.
You know, and probably making different music too.
Maybe, yeah.
Because it all got influenced by that. So yeah, so We All Speak in Poems came out. And then I started really getting into modern classical music.
Yeah.
Which then I made These Are Our Fears Part 1. Which is a neoclassical song, a super long drone song.
Yeah.
And then kind of an in-between song. And those were some of my favorite songs I had ever made. It was like between the artwork looking different than what I had made before and the song sounding more professional than I had ever done before. I was like, I'm ready to really get into this. And then I did In Distance We're Losing, which was a whole nother level because Jay Roger, who I met back in the Oslo days in City by Night, sang on Maybe.
Yeah.
We did that sick music video that I'm just going to say cost like $40,000. I did not pay anything for it. I scored a film for
Oh,
Elliot.
yeah, you guys did like a trade-off.
Yeah. Which is awesome because I got to score my first film as well.
Yeah.
You know? And then like there's songs like Paths on it, and Heather sang on Blue and Script. You sang on Hours. I made Because Finally It's Everything, and Eden used that for his year-end video. And like there's still people saying that they discovered my music through Eden. You know?
That's wild.
And I'm like, that's what? Really? That's
Yeah.
sick. And then I started paying attention to the other artists in the scene, like Slow Meadow. And he was doing those A-B singles, and they were really working for him. So I was like, I'm completely copying you right now. I'm going to do that. And it completely worked.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore, you know?
Well, I was even thinking, because you were talking about how you would kind of just write a song and then the next day, like, release it. I feel like you look back so fondly on when you weren't with a label because of that reason. But I guess it also, like, you have to take into consideration the time of that, the timing of that. I feel like if you were to do that nowadays, it just wouldn't work the same.
Yeah.
Like, it is always better to put more thought and advertising into something before just outright releasing it, even though that was the best thing to do. You didn't have to overthink, like, okay, how am I going to announce this before it comes out and build up hype and do this and do that? Like, there's such a process now.
At the time, even with We All Speak in Poems, probably starting with We All Speak in Poems and then getting more stuck in my head with In Distance, is I realized I had to take the time.
Yeah.
Because we had to wait for records.
True.
You know?
When did, like, mastering and mixing start for you? Obviously,
In Distance We're Losing.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't before Alaskan Tapes.
No.
Like with Oslo?
Nothing got mixed or mastered other than from me.
Wow.
Yeah. So Taylor Dupree first did, I actually want to say, These Are Our Fears, Part 1. He did that because I was like, this is next level. I think this is really professional. Let's get it actually mastered. I was still mixing everything. I still mix everything for the most part, except for when there's drums. I get Slow Meadow to do it. But yeah, and then, you know, In Distance We're Losing did pretty good. Maybe did really well. all this stuff was happening, and then I started getting to work on You Were Always an Island. Did The Ocean No Longer Wants Us come out before You Were Always an Island? It probably
I don't
did.
think so. I feel like it was closer to Millions.
Yeah, it just says 2018. No, because there was an album in between You Were Always an Island and...
Oh, yeah, Millions didn't come out until 2020. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So funny, because with...
Millions actually came out in 2019. The 2020 is just it's a metadata error.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like The Ocean No Longer Wants Us. You were so stoked for that one, and I feel like that was one where you actually really did like start putting a lot more thought and emphasis into advertising, and you were really pushing it.
I pushed that thing so much.
And then you dropped Millions, and you were so negative about it. You hated it. That was my absolute, and even to this day, I go back and listen to that one all the time. I love that album. So and it did better than...
There's this expectation. So when we did The Ocean No Longer Wants Us, I loved that album, by the way.
Yeah.
EP. That was the first time ever doing cassette.
Yes.
Right. And that was exciting. And they sold out. I sold 50 cassettes, which obviously doesn't sound like much, but that's still what I sell. I sold 50 cassettes in like 3 days. It was sold out.
It went really fast. But again, it was because you were so hyped about it. You promoted it for so long before it released. You were hyping everyone up about it.
That was the first EP that I started doing animation.
Oh, that as well. Okay. Yeah,
so all the videos were, a lot of time had been put into them. Some of the videos were played at that festival thing that we never went to in Oakville, I think it was. They were like projected and with the shapes and stuff. It's pretty cool. And then we put You're Always an Island out, and that's when I worked with Andrew Dezen for those 3 music videos.
Yeah.
And then I worked
those ones you paid for.
Those ones, well, not. I paid less than 10% of those.
Oh, okay.
They were still crazy expensive.
Oh, wow.
Also super high quality. And then we got nominated for a Juno, which was exciting.
For what one again?
For Places. Which I still love that song too. And then we started traveling a lot and we're just having fun. At that time, we were living in the townhouse.
I think so, yeah, in Stouffville.
And then Millions got put out, and I, in hindsight, I feel like I worked so hard on it because we were using a lot of the film cameras a lot. Okay. So I was waiting a long time to get photos back and stuff. I don't think I did enough for that.
I think you were also disappointed with a lot of the photos you got back because you were just getting into film, so you didn't know how to really work the camera completely. So the photos weren't coming back with the quality that you were expecting and wanting.
And the cassettes were lower quality.
Yes. Yeah, the cases weren't as good.
And then we put it out.
And you just didn't push it. You promoted it like once or twice. And I remember I was bothering you so much. I was like, you need to push it. Did you post about it? Are you going to post about it? Hey, have you posted about it?
And then I was just like, nah.
And then all of a sudden it started like blowing up and you weren't even stoked on it. Like you were.
And looking back, it is one of my favorite EPs.
The songs on it, like especially the song Millions. Oh my God, I love that song.
So to explain the song, the album, the EP, I don't know what to call it. It's 7 tracks.
Yeah, it's considered an album on Spotify, but I think you always considered it an EP.
So the way it was made is it's an ambient song, then a string song, ambient song, string song, in that order. The string songs were taken from old sessions and just put through Mangle and made into like these warped droney string songs, which looking back I love, but I don't think I put as much effort into it as I did songs from You're Always an Island or In Distance We're Losing. So I already had this thing of like I didn't work that hard on this. Obviously I worked hard on it, but like it wasn't as intentional.
Yeah.
And then the ambient songs weren't my favorite. There were a lot of generative.
You're pointing at a machine that I don't know the name of.
Yeah, it was all through Mangle. It was all that type of synthesis, granular synthesis. And then the music videos that were supposed to be made for that fell through. Remember, we had this whole thing, and I was so excited about it. And I was like, I just can't wait anymore. Let's just put it out.
So, sorry, before because you went off into the music videos. But with the actual songs themselves, it was just because you didn't have, like, you didn't feel a connection to the songs because they were your first kind of, like,
Generative
you're saying
music.
generative.
Yeah, because it was all
Okay.
granular.
I didn't realize that.
Not that, yeah, I didn't feel like I spent enough time with them.
Yeah.
Not that I needed to, especially with the way I make music now. It's very similar to that.
Okay.
It was just so different from the way that I had made music before.
Yeah.
And it just felt very hands off. It was doing it for me, and all of a sudden I just don't care.
Yeah, I guess there was probably a little bit of like yeah, you're getting good numbers, good responses from this album EP being released, but because you had no real connection to it, it wasn't like a pat on the shoulder for you having done like a good job creating it, because you were like, well, I didn't, like, it was the first time that you really took a step back from being involved in that process.
I think
That
so.
makes sense.
It all has to do with the psychology. Like, I call it psychology. I don't fucking know. At the time, everything was exponential growth until right after You Were Always an Island. And then I sort of leveled off.
Yeah.
You know, I hit almost 1 million monthly listeners for the first time, but then it went way back down, you know, and then we put out millions and didn't do that well. And I was like, okay, maybe this is the start of the end of my music career.
Yeah, I remember you started talking about changing aliases again, and I got
did,
very
yeah.
upset about that.
Yeah.
I was like, please don't.
Yeah.
You just built such a good base. Like, this is the biggest fan base you've ever had, and like, why just give up on it? And that was, I remember that we started really brainstorming, like, are you going to go in a different direction, or what's going to happen here? Yeah.
And that was also around the time that we went to Colorado, got those artist photos taken by Michael Ash Smith, and then we were also talking to him about all the social media stuff, because we thought he is the guy to talk about with that stuff, and he was giving us all these ideas. He gave us a lot
of really good advice.
But I didn't want to do any of that, because like the social media that I used to like with Facebook and stuff was just like designing something, putting it up, and being like, this represents my music.
Yeah.
But now is a lot of like interacting, being social.
It's just,
and it's
spending
just not
time
me.
preparing posts.
And
like,
that too.
And even he admitted, like, it takes hours out of your day to do this, and especially when you're playing around with the algorithms. And that was at the point where I was in school again, but also working part-time, and I was like, all right, maybe this is where I step in and really start helping you. Like, I've always been helping you from, you know, behind the scenes and just supporting you and whatnot. But this was where I was like, okay, maybe I'll take a step up and I'll kind of take on the Alaskan Tapes image on Instagram, and I'll post for you, and I'll schedule it all for you. We were looking into apps to get where we could kind of have things pre-planned, so it wasn't actually needing to be an everyday thing. But yeah, I remember spending a whole day writing everything out. Yep, I was on our rooftop thing, and I had it in my notebook, and I filled pages. And then you came up, and I showed it all to you, and you were like, we can't do this. Like, that's just so much, and there's no guarantee it's going to work. And then if it does work, what then? We have to uphold this forever? Or then do we have to push it to the next level? And I came down to the realization of what you were saying, and agreed that maybe it would even be too much for me, because I'm not the biggest into social media, but we're also just both naturally procrastinators. Well,
that's the thing. And like starting to schedule posts and thinking about them ahead of time took away the fun out of, so I really at the time especially missed not waiting for records or cassettes and just posting songs on SoundCloud and stuff. SoundCloud was dying at this time, and that's exactly what felt like was getting taken away from me at the time, was the spontaneity of Instagram. I could just post something, and that's fun. But then focusing and scheduling and creating this what felt like a product, and then for it to probably not do well, we actually don't know if it would do well because we just never
tried it.
Just felt wrong. And then that's when I started going in this pattern of like, I post a lot when an album or song's coming out, and then nothing.
See, and this is where I started coming up with the idea of what, as a viewer and a listener, what do I enjoy from like artists that I follow? And at the time I was subscribed, I think I still am, to a lot of mailing lists. Right. And that was when I also found Flat Sound and his blog. And I was like, why don't you try and just get more open about who you are with your fans? And you obviously had a lot of uncertainty there and you were uncomfortable with that idea. But I came up with the idea of like creating a mailing list and maybe like once a month. It doesn't even need to be that often, or even every other week, kind of send out an email just saying what you've been up to, movies and books you've been interested in, any trips. You can share some photos, like just give some more insight into who you are, what you're doing, and what's been inspiring your music lately. Other musics, like I said, movies, books, that kind of stuff. Even give little snippets into like, this is what's upcoming, give a 30-second thing. Like, I was so excited about this idea because I thought that would work. Like,
it does work.
But again, it's something that's it's very time consuming. And as you said, it just isn't you. Like, you're not one, even in person with people that we've known for a long time, like you just don't share things about yourselves. It doesn't come naturally to you.
Yeah.
To like
or
be open about that.
And like, I see that working now that I'm working a little bit with Six Missing. He does exactly that.
Yeah.
His mailing list thing is like on point.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it. But it was also a thing, like, so I started that travel blog on the website. Do you remember that?
I remember
and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But it's because I had something that I considered significant to post. I was excited about our travels, going to Colorado, going to the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
And just saying what we did. But then to write an email or something, kind of not boosting what I was doing, but almost like kind of just exaggerating.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel right again, because that's what I felt like I had to do. Obviously, I can make a 2-line email and say, hey, stuff's kind of getting worked on sometimes.
See, and that's exactly how I feel like you would naturally want to do it. Just remind people, yeah, I'm working on things. But for me, I'm like, if I was in your position, or if you would let me take control of doing this for you, I would write out a full thing being like, this is what we've been doing. This is what's been inspiring. This is like, because I feel like generally people are interested in that stuff. Like, how do you see the world and how are you influenced by it? And especially as a musician, an ambient musician, which isn't very common, I'm sure people would love to know more about that. But
well, when we moved here and the pandemic gave more time, even though it really didn't, I don't know, some sort of mindset switched when we were in lockdown.
Yeah.
Because we started the podcast, which is kind of a version of that. And I started live streaming, which is also just, it's a thing to...
That's definitely more down your alley, just to kind of straight up show, like, this is how
what I'm
something.
doing. Yeah, exactly. And it's easier to talk about something than write about something for me.
Yeah.
Because seriously, if any musicians are listening here, like, that email blog type thing is the way to go. Build your mailing list.
Not for everyone. It does work,
if
though,
you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Like, it works, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. Yeah. You know, I suck at that whole, because it all switched from just no face.
Yeah.
Just make a cool design on Photoshop and post it, and that's that.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely got a little bit more uncomfortable when you started showing your face, and then now there was this pressure of like, we need to advertise more, or you need to start showing who you are more, and like you were just getting really out of your comfort zone with it all. Like, that's never what you imagined or wanted for your project.
I always took my music super seriously, but this felt like official seriousness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was acting the way that people on labels acted, which foreshadowing is ended up what happened. But
you also used to say a lot back then, though, that like you never wanted to be promoting yourself. It's about your music, and so the mailing list and showing your face and all that, like, it definitely felt a lot more like, this is me, if you like me, come listen.
Exactly.
Like, you didn't want that. You wanted people to organically find your music and find meaning in it and joy in it naturally.
Yeah, who cares who made it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't matter. The music matters, you know what I mean?
But you do matter as the creator.
Yeah. And now with the way everything's going social media wise, like, obviously it is important to show yourself and to connect with fans.
Yeah.
But no thanks. You know what I'm saying? No, not that black and white, but it is a thing that sort of makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, you appreciate your fans. You just don't feel like you need to be a part of their lives, or like have them have you a part of their lives in such a like a close way. Yeah.
Exactly. And like there are a couple fans that have been here over the years that pop in, and every once in a while we have a conversation, which is really nice.
Especially when you were doing the lives, you had like some familiar
Exactly.
fans, so you were really creating like
a connection there.
connection with
And
them,
the
yeah.
live streaming is something I want to get back to for sure.
Yeah.
I just don't know when. I don't know how. It's
And
easier
you're
when
not-
I'm writing an album.
You're not good with scheduling.
Especially now.
Yeah. Well, now you're really busy, but also especially before, when your day-to-day schedule was so open,
Yeah.
you had so many different things that you could be working on, and then you would kind of go into this paralysis half the day, and then you'd finally get into something, and then now it's too late to do the live streaming that you wanted to do earlier in the day or something like that.
Man, the amount of time that I had before
like being with the label and working with the label.
Yeah, it's crazy. Obviously, I feel very fulfilled and stuff now, but if I would have just taken this work ethic, which I had a lot of the time, but not all the time, and if I had it all the time, I would have been live streaming every day.
Yeah.
It would have been fun. Well, maybe not every day.
Or even with practicing instruments. Like, I remember always saying that to you. Like, you'd be like, oh, like, I'd be at work or something or at school, and you'd be texting me saying, like, oh, you know, I don't know what to do yet. I'm looking at doing this or that or this or that. And then I'd be like, oh, why don't you just practice an instrument for a little bit? And go, yeah, maybe. And
yeah, which I definitely should. There's a couple instruments here that I started practicing at the beginning of this year or beginning of last year.
Yeah, the trumpet and the cello.
And I need to get back to the trumpet.
Yeah.
That's one that really excited me, and I was playing it for a long time, and then I just nothing. Because it's hard. Okay, so we're gonna leave it off right before Views from 16 Stories. And we'll come back for a part 3, which will probably be like half an episode or something.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks or something, and
just to talk more about the rest of Alaskan Tapes, and then also the future.
And also, that's a good idea. Yeah. All right. So thanks for listening. If anybody has any questions, hit us up on Instagram or whatever, and we can answer those as well. I know we sort of flew through 7 years of music there. I don't even know if
even in the first episode we were like, this is gonna be 10 episodes long, and no, we got through all that pretty quickly. But
yeah, we could if we really went back and put clips in and stuff,
but yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, ask questions if you need it. Ask questions if you don't. Please ask questions.
All right,
Thanks for listening.